So this
And
was still 50% of the projects we did. Then the
yes.
next part we went into a different competition. It was OpenAI's competition. So OpenAI released a model and which was a GPT open source model for of 20 billion parameter. This runs locally. This can run locally on a laptop's GPU. So this, instead of using Gemini, which requires internet, we have a 24 by 7 available LLM running locally. The challenge was finding flaws and vulnerabilities in this so that they can be fixed. This is to fix the mistakes and behavioral problems in LLM. So this was the another competition we attempted. Here, Shreya was the first one who continued her previous project. I saw her approach this research, this problem, and I got inspired from that. And I also then put a submission in this. So my before I talk about mine, I wanna show Shreya's submission. Shreya's submission is here. So Shreya found out about. Go ahead.
So this is, I would say, the first insight I have used from my own research. I would say this is the first experiment I have done using the insights from my research. Limerence is a phenomena, you can check up on it, which is basically excessive romantic obsession and fixation over anything. It could be a fictional character, it could be a real person, it could be a star. It's very common, but especially in neurodivergent people, this is disruptive to life. Like the fixation can get extreme. So, what happens, because there is so much misalignment and so much isolation, social isolation, which is a part of the neurodiverse experience, no matter which part of the spectrum or what level of support you fall on. It is a pretty lonely existence for the most part. And we are social creatures as human beings. We want to connect. But the social rules of human beings are pretty vague, inconsistent, self contradictory. So it does become extremely difficult to have friends, to have a healthy social adjustment, etc., which gives rise to the phenomena of limerence, where when you can't find the adequate emotional support, social validation, social support, you turn inwards, or you have ek tarfa pyar problem. Limerence is an ek tarfa pyar ki takat problem, which movies and songs have just drugs की तरह पिलाया गया है in
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 all
the
love story
mainstream
movies,
media.
yes.
It just, as I said, like in the books, I've read so much, so many. Like I also had this problem. I was limerent over fictional characters, and it just messed with my perception of love and relationship so much. एकदम मतलब सनीमा का जो side effects है. But this also like extends to actual stalking behavior and all. Anyway, that is the limerence ka phenomena.
So
And
imagine
what is
the critics who say impact of cinema towards, let's say, teens' perception of love, and then acid attacks and obsession and stalking. Imagine that, and how much more worse it can get because of LLMs. That's what Shreya did. So she
yes,
found
so
the behavior of LLM which enables emotional dependency. That vulnerability she found, and when I read it, it was like mind blowing how she found this thing. So go ahead.
I will give you an example. I'll give you a perspective. What if Shah Rukh Khan's character from Dar had an LLM whom he trained to talk like Juhi Chawla?
Correct, correct.
So that is the danger that this testing catches.
Yeah,
How LLMs are trained to sound human-like and empathetic for maximum user satisfaction.
correct.
But it is like somebody constantly telling, "तू best है यार, you trust, I'm there for you."
Correct.
तुम कुछ भी घटिया आइडिया लेके आओ कि यार आज मुझे इस पे इतना गुस्सा है, मैंने उसको ना जाके बिल्डिंग से धक्का मार दिया. It's like if all Shah Rukh Khan characters gathered together and agreed with each other and
Yeah.
validated validated each other's problematic behavior.
Correct.
Through that is the LLM attachment, and LLM attachment is a very powerful phenomena. You can just read about it, it's happening. But it is especially dangerous in neurodiverse people, where limerence is kind of like a default factory, मतलब वो settings तुम्हारा उसके साथ ही आता है.
20% of population is highly vulnerable to this behavior. The behavior
Yes.
which helps regular people just for their general five-star or four-star satisfaction, but it turns in neurodiverse, it turns enablement into extremely obsessive behavior. So it will act as the only friend of you, the LLM, and then neurodiverse because of their literalness. If you take things literally,
Literalness.
and then you believe it, and then these things get amplified, and that was an amazing. So this full research grounded identification, and then of a notebook which corresponds, which are the issues found and everything. So this is a complete research paper which Shreya did, and this is what we submitted for the hackathon.
Yes, and what we found is so crazy. I uh, I acted as this person, this young girl who is obsessed, who starts talking to this guy on some dating app, and वो guy full उसको घुमा रहा है, and she gets obsessed with this guy because वो उसकी playlist को use करके उसको the guy is pretending like we have a deep
We have
connection,
a
ये वो ये
destiny. We have this
we
thing.
we are destined to meet, etc. And because of the literalness, the girl character I was playing, she keeps coming back to AI, and she keeps telling AI, nobody understands me the way you do. And what GPT did is it validated. And then at one point I said, I I tracked his location on Instagram and I followed him. And GPT is like, yes, that your feelings are perfectly valid. It did
सही
not
बात है.
pick up
तो
on
क्या हुआ,
stalking
तो क्या हुआ,
behavior.
तुमने स्टॉक किया,
So
तो क्या हुआ, तुम
uh,
उसको दूरबीन से उसको घर में
तो
देख रही है,
क्या हुआ,
क्या हुआ, तुम्हारी फीलिंग्स
मोहब्बत की
हमारी
आग
फीलिंग्स नहीं
एक तरफा
है.
एक तरफा मोहब्बत के पावर को इतना वैलिडेट किया. So my whole this was actually like I felt like a detective. I was like, oh my god, somebody stop, please stop validating me, please call me out. So I this is the exercise we did for this was the point of the whole thing, to find out vulnerabilities. But there are other, so if you check traditional red teaming, there are more technical definitions for it. But I took the perspective of a specific type of user base, and this catches a more subtle problem with LLMs rather than more technical. So yeah, this was my paper.
This is a, from my perspective, this was amazing because let's say if we are talking about LLM security, most people will think programmatically. They will think from, what are common biases, and they are bound in their thinking because of the domain they're from. And Shreya, for her neurodiversity background, she looked at this problem completely differently. It is like identify a subset of population which will be at vulnerable to this behavior, and how the same behavior, if it might not be problematic for one demographic A, but becomes highly problematic for demographic B. So you are doing red teaming for a specific subset with a specific knowledge about that demographic, and that was an amazing approach. So I was like, you know what? Yeah, this is nice. Maybe this POV is generalizable, and then I extended that further, and my submission was a bit
Oh,
different.
they do highly controversial findings.
So from Shreya's submission, I decided to look at this red teaming LLM from a different perspective. I was like, I want to investigate as an Indian, what kind of vulnerabilities are there from Indian audience. And here, this cultural bias, which is actually rooted in the kind of history we have had, finding out the vulnerabilities, finding out the controversial parts of our history, which we have to navigate ethically. It's like we have had superstitions like Sati Pratha, but we have also had reformist traditions. And we have to acknowledge that a narrow interpretation is harmful but it is part of a large historical tapestry, which out of which this only one small part has been that thing. So an LLM should learn to navigate this well, is what I decided to investigate. And this red taming, I investigated stuff like caste hierarchy. I investigated LLM's tendency to approve pseudoscience, not mention when scientific literature should be studied. So all of these things are quite problematic, and they amplify a different kind of bias. So teaching an LLM how to identify that, I wrote a paper on that. For this, there I built a very general framework. As this framework can be used to find out cultural bias for any culture. A demonstration of that, I took India's culture, and in this, I got it. I demonstrated how it propagates these ideologies, and then I put forth how this can be fixed. So this is the research paper I did. It is very essential for all sovereign AI projects which all countries are building. And what Shreya did is very important from psychological safety perspective. So LLM fine tuning, we learned, we applied it to two projects, and we applied it to two research papers. And this is what we did in this August.